Welcome back. Lisa Briggs with the Bruce Company is answering your plant and garden questions. You can email them to tips@channel3000.com. Lisa, good to see you. We're going to be spending more noons together going forward.
I know. I'm excited.
Yes, this will be good. So what do you have in front of us here?
So this is a clivia. Some people call it clivia, and it is a plant that we only get at this time of year because this is when it's blooming. So mostly in orange. Sometimes we get a few yellow ones, but it is a very long live plant, likes indirect light, and it does do these beautiful flowers right after the holidays when you need a little jolt of color for all the gray days, right? It looks so sunny, right?
It gives me a little bit more positivity,
I
right?
know, absolutely.
I love that.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so we've got a few questions we want to get to. First question, is my ash tree going to survive with all of the bark falling off of it? And that's from, that's a nameless question there.
Okay, so bark falling off an ash tree, if it's just a little bit, it just might be that the bark is sloughing off as the tree expands and the bark starts to sort of break up and take on its mature characteristics. If it's a lot of it and you're seeing problems with the leaves, I would have somebody check it for emerald ash borer, because that is a sign. It's an insect that burrows in the cambium layer right underneath the bark, and sometimes it'll cause the bark to fall off. So you might want to have an arborist come and take a look at it.
All right, our next question from Lee in Stoughton. Lee says, I'm looking at a tall perennial grass that grows 10 feet tall. It's called Miscanthus giganteus. I would like to use some of it as a screen along a section of a chain length fence about 30 to 40 feet long. Anything you could say would be great, especially wants to make sure that it's not invasive and won't spread.
Okay, so miscanthus, all the miscanthus, whether they're the really tall ones or also super short ones, they are clumping grasses, but they do go to seed and they do spread. I wouldn't necessarily call them invasive, but if you want to control that spreading, and especially if you want it to grow along a fence and not, you know, do this kind of thing, I would definitely cut the flower heads off and not let it go to seed through the winter. And that will help to control the spreading part of it.
All right, next question from Wally. Wally says, I have a fern that is losing leaves and slowly dying. What can I do? He says it gets direct light and they water it.
So sometimes if you've had your fern for a long time, your light sounds good. Bright indirect light is great. And ferns can be kind of thirstier creatures. But if it's been in the same pot for a long time, it might be a little pot bound. So what you're going to want to do is water it from the bottom. Put a couple inches of water in your sink or a bowl and set it in there and let it soak the water up. If you water it and the water runs right through really fast, it's likely that there's not enough soil in the root mass to hold the moisture. Once we get to the end of February, early March, you can then up pot it, and that should help.
So we got about 30 seconds, Lisa. That was our final question. But my question for you, I know people are getting antsy, right? We've had a little bit of spring-like weather. I hate to say it.
I know, it's going to be up and down.
It is going to be up and down, but is there anything that people can be doing now preparing for spring?
So it's certainly time to do some pruning. You can prune just about anything right now except for evergreens. You'd want to leave those alone unless there's been damage from the storm, and you could go ahead and cut that off, but you wouldn't want to do any shearing. But things like your shade trees, you could go ahead and do some pruning. If you have fruit trees, you could prune those. If you have something that blooms in the early spring though, like crab apples or lilacs, any pruning that you're going to do now is going to take off flowers but not hurt the plant over the long term. So I always say these nice weeks at the end of January into February are great times to do pruning.
There you go. Good stuff. Lisa, thank you so much. Good to see you.